Well, it looks like spring is finally here in earnest. People in Los Angeles have been complaining about these ridiculously high temperatures, but around my house, this past weekend is the first time it actually stopped raining for like 2 weeks, and that's been great for my seasonal affective disorder. Simultaneously, I've had a whole bunch of computer problems all happen one right after the other. No matter what though, Turdus migratorius, the American robin, is still doing its thing. You know, the robin is one of the first North American birds to get frisky come springtime. I don't know what robins have to do with hard drive crashes, but we're gonna get to the bottom of this somehow. Hello friends, welcome to Mr. Snayl's Wild Ride. I am Mr. Snayl and the wild ride is my life every day. So you know how your computer is all shiny and new and exciting when you first get it, but like within a year or so it feels kind of old and clunky? Well, that kind of exponential obsolescence is actually a real thing. It's explained by Moore's law. My main computer is a desktop setup. It began exhibiting these little quirks not very long after I got it. It's just gotten weirder as time has gone by. Not so much that I can't use the computer, just enough to sort of keep me raising an eyebrow every once in a while. So several months ago, I set aside blocks of time to try to solve this problem on my own. And I did everything that I could, aside from deleting everything, wiping the hard drive, and starting over. All of it was to no avail. I couldn't figure out what the deal was. Some more time goes by. I block out a whole day, get on the phone with tech support. They walk me through things. That takes several hours. Nothing. I figured it was a hardware issue. I break down and I take it to a guy that I trust, and he can't find the problem. In the end, everybody's recommendation is that I do a complete system wipe, just install the system software, and then use it that way for a few weeks and see how it goes. Well, that would be fine if I didn't need non-system software to do a bunch of stuff. Fortunately, the system is under warranty for a little while longer. I started thinking I'd better do this wipey before the warranty runs out on the off chance that the wipey doesn't solve the whole problem, right? And I start strategizing the whole double backup rotation of data. And in the process of starting this procedure, I actually discovered that a couple of these hard drives are starting to fail. Of course, I discover this only after the lengthy cloning process is completed. Now, at the same time that all of that is going on, just a couple of days ago, I was sitting working on my MacBook Pro, which is about 8 years old, and I was typing away, and all of a sudden the display started flickering strangely, and then just winked out. Bye-bye. Now, normally I would take the time to cruise around on eBay to find a new inverter board or a logic board or screen or even a whole lid. That's not even all of the technology that's turned against me. And the thing is, technology is usually the Aspie's best friend. Now, around the time that all this madness began, I noticed some bird had started to build a nest in the archway over our front door. Now, when my wife and I built our house in the woods, we knew what we were getting ourselves into. And we welcomed that, actually. You know, I never wanted, really, a yard to have to water and fertilize and mow, and then do that over and over for 4 months or 6 months out of the year. A fence to have to either strip and paint or stain every year, or else leave it be and then just watch it peel and rot and look like crap. The thing is, we get something in exchange. Almost every day, deer walk by the front of our house, really close to the house, too. In the summer, hummingbirds feed at the wildflowers. We see them right outside the bathroom window. We spot turtles occasionally trying to mosey their way across our driveway. We hear and see woodpeckers doing their thing. You know, it's cool. In fact, there's a hive of bees in one of the trees right at the beginning of our driveway, and it's been there for 5 years now so far. So with all that kind of, National Geographic nature action, you'd really think that birds would have nested somewhere on the house by now. Eventually I saw it was a robin working on the nest, and I remember thinking, that space is way too small for a robin. Once you've stuffed some nesting material in there, with an adult robin in that space too, those cylindrical openings are not very wide. I don't know how she would raise chicks in there. Being in there herself, it would basically be full. And robins are not cavity nesters. They won't use like a birdhouse or something like that. So I was really surprised that she built a nest in this tube in the first place. At the other end of the house, we have this screened-in porch built right off of the kitchen. And around this same time, I went out there and a robin startled me by flying away from this one corner just outside of the screened-in porch. So I sort of leaned over and looked at the spot, and there was another robin's nest, but this one actually had 3 little blue eggs in it. Since she had already flown away for a second, I of course showed it to my wife, but we agreed to give her some space and not go out there for a little while. So now, all at once, we felt like we were surrounded by these fertile robins doing their thing. Then one morning, just a couple days later, the front archway nest was on the ground, and 2 little broken blue eggs were on our doormat. We couldn't figure it out. Did the robin kick the nest out? Figured out this was a bad neighborhood for some reason? Or did some predator attack and knock the nest out? Maybe it was a cowbird, a brood parasite. They lay their eggs in other birds' nests. Robins are pretty well established cowbird egg rejectors. Their beaks are big enough that they can just pick the eggs up and throw them out of the nest. They do have plenty of predators though, so now we were just banking on the nest by the screened-in porch. We'd see Mama coming and going periodically. Just a few days after the front archway nest got dumped, I noticed not 1, but 2 new nests under construction in the archway. One of them even in the same tube. That really doesn't make any sense. If this was a bad spot, either because it was exposed to predators or too much sunlight or who knows, why would they be building there again? I'm no bird expert, but I still thought it was a positive sign. So a few more days passed, then just recently I was in the kitchen and I heard this. And pretty loudly too. So I looked up in the direction that it was coming from and I noticed that the door to the screened-in porch was open, which it never is. So I went out there to see what was up, and I saw a robin making this ruckus, sitting on top of the fence that surrounds the dog run. Even though I was fairly close, maybe only 100 feet away, the bird didn't move. So I carefully went over and took a look at that nest, and it was empty. We'd missed the whole hatching, feeding thing. That's the fun part, listening to the peep, peep, peep. It never occurred to us that all that coming and going with her flying around was probably her feeding the babies. So they made it out at least. It seems like the new front door nests didn't get completed or something. I haven't seen any birds there, no new activity, nothing. So it turns out robins usually have 2 or 3 broods per season, which for them lasts from April till about July. So the nest dumper still has plenty of time to do her thing. As for me and my technical problems, well, stuff keeps breaking down and acting all wonky. Like, just this past weekend, my phone stopped receiving any text messages for some reason. For no reason, apparently. I was too busy to do anything about it until Monday, but there you go. So yeah, it's a nightmare. The robins keep on doing their thing no matter what happens, and as trite as this may sound, I've just gotta keep on doing my thing no matter what happens. Look, I know humans' lives are more complex than a bird's, but it's sort of like they say in a lot of 12-step programs. You just gotta take one day at a time, sometimes even an hour at a time, And when you get through that day, or even a single hour, that's its own victory. And if it went badly, then the next one is a fresh start. That's really hard for me to remember, even though I fixate on short-term goals. And it would do me a hell of a lot of good if I could keep that in mind more often. As an Aspie, I tend to grind perpetually on the past, when usually I can't do anything about it. So if I could be more like the robin and just kind of keep moving forward, that might help. Okay, dudes. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe for new episodes every Thursday, and click like on this video. And, we'll see you. And me and my technical problem has been doing its thing already. The broad... As for me and my technical... I can't talk. As for me and my technical... I'm having it. As for me and my technical...